Hey everyone, my name is Darby and I work in the Incubation Engineering department at GitLab. This is the DevOps for mobile apps demo for August 13th. So for this week, we have an issue here that I've created and I'll share my screen. This issue contains kind of the summary of everything that I'm going to go over today. And this week's effort was a lot about kind of getting the lay of the land and seeing what we have in place today for mobile support in GitLab. And so starting off here, I've got a list of kind of current state items. The first are the CI templates that we have. So we have two. This one's mislabeled, so I'll correct that after this recording is done. But there's two Android templates, one for regular Android and one for Android with Fastlane, and then another one for iOS with Fastlane. These are linked here. You can see them, and they have various configurations and different steps set up in those templates. I also tried some of these templates out, so I'll get to that a little bit later. We also have a section in the docs. So over here in the CI docs, there's a section on mobile development that links to a few different blog posts and other pieces of documentation. And then lastly, I went and tried to collect all the blog posts that we have. And so I have a spreadsheet here that's just kind of links to all of them and kind of, covers the topic and if they are related to Fastlane or not. So that's kind of what we have today. And so going off of that, I decided to set up some sample projects. So we've got a couple weather apps that I found on GitHub, just sort of open source weather apps. I thought those would be easy to test with. And then also materialistic, which is used in one of the blog posts. So I thought I would try that one out as well. So I've got the links to the projects in GitLab here. And you can see the code, you can see the various builds that were run as well. So if you go to pipelines, you can see there are several builds that I ran in here. And then I also linked to the source in GitHub where I got these from. All of these, when I forked them, had passing builds in either GitHub Actions or Travis or whatever they were using. So the first thing I tried to do was get the templates working, and I wasn't able to get passing builds with those templates, which is not a surprise. These projects have kind of custom configurations. And so the second thing that I tested was, could we get a build working with Fastlane? I didn't get to any of this in iOS just yet. I haven't got the Mac runner set up quite right. But I did test the Android ones on our shared runners. The interesting part was that I was able to get the Fastlane builds working with a little bit of a CI example that I put down here. So essentially, if we look at this example, so this is the merge request to add Fastlane to this project, and it's essentially a Fastlane init, which generates some of this boilerplate for Fastlane, and then I replaced the CI YAML file that I had in there with this new sample that I created. So you can look at that MR and see what's going on there. But basically, what the example looks like is pretty straightforward. So Fastlane does seem to take care of a lot of the complexities for us. So this is just a Ruby image. And we install a couple things like the JDK and the Android SDK. And then we set an environment variable here. This whole bit right here, which I'd like to figure out how to simplify, this is something we have to do to accept the license agreements for the Android SDK. I haven't quite figured out a way to get around that yet, but I'm going to work on that. And then we just run bundle install. And from there, our test stage is just Fastlane test. And what that's going to execute in that MR is going to be these steps right here in the Fastlane file. And so these are the original kind of test tasks from the open source project. And so this whole thing runs and it passes. So we have a green build there, which was pretty exciting. So that's kind of the quick overview of what I have in place there. The other, I have this section on other findings. A couple other things that I tried. I tested out Bitrise with the weather app for Android, and that didn't have a passing build out of the box. I didn't dig into that too much to see why, but that was just kind of a quick test there. I also found that Bitrise has an open source step library, which is kind of interesting. This is kind of all of the steps that they provide as part of their platform. And so I think there are some things that that can be kind of gleaned from this information. One thing I want to look into is this license manager thing. Maybe there's an example of how to get around that, or at least a way to simplify that for our purposes. And then the other thing that I dug into a little bit was the idea of automatically identifying a mobile platform. So this would be kind of nice if you could just look at a code base and figure out what kind of project it is. And so I tried this open source tool out, and it worked pretty well. I tried it on several different types of apps too, but it scans for things like React Native and Flutter, Ionic, Cordova, and so on. Not sure what we'll do with this just yet, but kind of nice to know that there's a way that we can do this, and seems pretty reliable. So that is kind of the main part. So I've got an up next section here. So kind of the things I want to focus on next are getting the Mac runners working, and getting some iOS builds working. And as I mentioned, kind of slimming down that Android example above. And ideally, it'd be nice to have kind of a reliable Android and iOS Fastlane examples that we can use to build off of. So getting just that initial test running, and then we can do kind of like the next steps around review apps or deployments or whatever we want to do next. But getting that initial foundation is important. And then finding some more apps to test with. This is a very limited set of test examples, so there's obviously different variations out there. So if you or someone you know has an app that would be good for this and you want to help out, let me know, add a comment in this issue, and I'll reach out that way. So that's kind of it. If there's anything that I missed in terms of current state, please add that in this issue too. I know there's probably a lot of other stuff out there that I didn't find right away. So that is it for this week. Thanks for watching.